Welcome back, College Baseball Central fans. This is the Best Coast Pod. As always, I'm joined by Pat Moen. Pat, how are we doing today, man? We've had 2 weeks of college baseball. We're getting ready to get into week three. I'm pumped, man. This has been an awesome college baseball so far.
2 weeks under the belt, great action on the field both weekends. Now I got 2 weeks of baseball and I'm waiting for the weather to turn. I got a couple nice days this past weekend, but back to the rain here in the Northwest. I'm waiting for it to turn for good.
I'm hoping it turns before this weekend because I'm going to be at some games live. So if you folks want to come by and say hi, I'm going to be at Oregon State Friday, Linfield on Saturday, and then U of O on Sunday. We're just excited for the season, man, here. So as you guys know, College Baseball Central, we do the collective poll. Both Pat and myself get votes for that. We have about 20 of us writers that contribute to that. It's a really good poll. What we were just looking at the numbers, we had 210,000 views this year on our poll. If you're not seeing our poll yet, you're missing out. Go take a look at it. Really good stuff there from the rest of the crew there at College Baseball Central. Also, we're going to get to the top 25, the West Coast teams here. So, others receiving votes this week: UCLA, UC Irvine, Cal, Long Beach State, and San Diego. I myself had UCLA and Cal still receiving votes this week. I don't know where you were at, Pat, but I really do think that Cal deserved to be a little higher than they are. But UCLA was also on my list.
Yeah, on mine, I actually didn't have UCLA on my list, nor did I have Long Beach State on my list, but I did have the others. I had Irvine at 20th, San Diego up at 24, and Cal at 25.
Yeah, UC Irvine has been on fire. There's no denying there. They were my 26 team. San Diego's a little bit lower for me, but Long Beach State is crawling up there too. There's some really good baseball being played out here on the West Coast, and we'll get to more of that here when we get into those other West Coast teams that are not in the Pac-12. A Pac-12 team that did crack our top 25 that's been on the outside most of the season, but been right there receiving votes. University of Oregon at 22. I had them a lot higher. I don't know where you had them, but I had Oregon at 10. I feel like I might have put them a little too high, but I really like the way that this pitching staff is thrown for Oregon, and those two transfers in the outfield in Hurd and Casella, they're crushing the ball. They are really doing things for this Oregon offense. If that pitching can hold up, this team is legit and can make an Omaha run. I don't know how you feel. Where do you have them at, Pat?
I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I had them exactly at 22, and as well, I had
22.
Oregon State right at number 3 as I was going through this. Um, you're spot on. When I was breaking down this past weekend for Oregon, you got to kind of take things with a grain of salt because Lafayette isn't quite the program that some of the other schools around here played. We'll get into that later, but yeah, this offense is firing on all cylinders, and the pitching staff is coming into its own early in the season as well.
It's really good to see RJ Gordon back and healthy and throwing on that first game for them. If he's healthy, man, he gives them a real Friday night starter. He really does help this team out. And then, of course, number 3, Oregon State. I had them at 4. You had them at 3. People had them at 2 in our poll. Really, anywhere in that mix is good. I think that this team is really, really a talented Oregon State team. We saw them. We'll get more into their individual games, but I think we're happy with this spot right now, right, Pat?
I'm more than happy. I thought that everything that we saw this weekend was kind of what I was expecting to see. I knew that Friday night would be an absolute stellar ball game, and it lived up to the hype. And then the rest of the weekend, they took care of business exactly how they needed to, and in response to what happened on Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming back out and winning the rest of the weekend and beating Texas Tech on Wednesday, going 33 runs versus 11. I mean, that's just really good baseball. They're really taking care of business, and the ERA is way low for this team, and the runs and the home runs. Travis Bazana has more home runs than 17 D1 schools right now. So that's impressive, and it's just good to see here from this team. That's just one of the players right now. Oregon State is up there in the home run count. I think Duke is the only team still ahead of them, but it's impressive right now so far what Oregon State has done in 8 games. But we're going to start off with another team that's been very, very impressive so far. Long Beach State 5-0-1. They get UCLA as their midweek game this week, and then they're playing Milwaukee. If they can sneak past that UCLA game, they might be undefeated still heading into next weekend when they're going to start Big West play.
They've got a great opportunity to do it. And I think this team kind of snuck up on so many just because of the amount of unknowns that were around the Washington program. So you could see that first week of playing, you see them come out undefeated. But I think a lot of people were quick to point fingers, probably myself included, at Washington being a bit of a subpar team and not the other side of the things where Long Beach State just plays a really strong brand of baseball. And then they go out this week in week 2 and sweep Omaha in 3 games. So it's one of those things offensively. They've got it clicking. Cole Santander, He's driving in runs. Adrian Lopez is on base nearly 50% of his at bats. The pen has been piecing it together. Josh Donegan is a name that I have highlighted here. He went 5 innings with 1 hit and 6 Ks over these first 2 weekends. They're going to be a problem in the Big West, and I think we could see a lot of more wins coming for the Dirtbags here.
I know that we all were talking about UCSB, right? We were talking about them being, oh, this is the pitching staff. This Long Beach State pitching staff has been stellar so far in the season. And it's been bullpen, it's been stars, it's been a little mix of everybody. They've all done their job. They've come in there in big situation. They've gotten the outs they need to. They haven't given up a lot of long balls. This team has been really good about throwing strikes and getting guys out. They're not walking a lot either. And in college baseball early in the season, you got to do that. Throw strikes, go out there and get outs. And they've collected the outs. I'm very impressed with this Long Beach State team. They are close to being in my poll here, but they're not there yet. I want to see them this week and possibly next week. Another team that's very close that I thought was doing some big things. They got 1 loss this weekend, but Santa Clara at 4-2, or they didn't lose this weekend. They went 3-0 this weekend, but they lost 2 to Arizona State the previous weekend. Santa Clara's a good baseball team. They're really taking care of business, and they have some studs. Bering is a dude.
Bering takes back-to-back Player of the Week honors to start the season on the West Coast. I mean, he's averaging 3 RBIs a game. He's got 18 of them through 6 games. Sunday, his big kind of coming out for the weekend. He went 4 for 6, 4 RBIs, all of those coming at a bottom of the ninth inning grand slam to clinch the sweep over UMBC. Quite the moment out there in Santa Clara. This team offensively is firing on every single cylinder. Averaging 11.2 runs a game so far to start the season. The only game they haven't scored double digits is one of those losses to Arizona State. They only tallied 6, and that was in game 1 when Thomas Burns went out and shut him down. Efrain Manzo, again, he's hitting 500, 12 RBIs. There's so much going on with this Santa Clara offense to love.
And really, it's just the first 5 innings there against Arizona State because they still ended up scoring 5 runs in the last 4 or 3 2/3. This team is good. They're going to be fine. Bering is a dude that walk-off grand slam was just something spectacular. He was right there on my list of the players to highlight this weekend, but I knew we were going to talk about him anyway because he's been really good for the Santa Clara team. A lot of good baseball here on the West Coast. Another team, UC Irvine, undefeated also. Big West opponents there, Long Beach State. They're 6-0. This Irvine team can hit. Man, they just hit. They hit and hit and hit. Like we talked about, they have every returning hitter coming back, and my goodness, is it showing in these preseason games. They're going to go out. They got San Diego, Michigan, and UCLA this weekend. I'm excited to see what Irvine does this weekend because this could be a coming out party for this team if they continue this offensive approach.
Yeah, that's exactly where I see it for them. It was undefeated at 6-0, but they haven't played, I would say, the strongest opponents here so far to start the season. So they started with North Dakota State and then Tulane, which he has a tournament team, but as we most of us know, they kind of got lightning in a bottle to make the tournament last year by winning their conference tournament. Yeah. I think that UCLA series, their game at the very end of this weekend, is going to be one to watch and kind of a telltale sign on how legit this UC Irvine team could be against higher competition. But yeah, the offense is all over the place. Thomas McCaffrey, Luke Spillane, you could go on and on and on with just about every hitter on that lineup. And they've been getting good starts from Nick Pinto and Trevor Hansen. Their Sunday guy's been kind of iffy a little bit with Riley Kelly, but David Udogawa is the guy that I've been looking on. He came in on the first game in relief, in which just shut out. He came in this past weekend twice in relief and pitched really, really well there as well.
Yeah, Riley's been a question mark, right? So I don't know if he's going to end up being the Sunday guy all year. It's a guy that kind of plug and play right now to see where they're at. Pinto's been terrific as a Friday night guy. He has really taken care of business and really held them where they need to be and let this offense do work. Splane's been a guy that you can just lean on and say, hey, this is my leader. This is the team leader guy. This is the guy we want to follow. And they've done so. They're 6-0. San Diego, Michigan, UCLA this weekend. Good test for them. See where they're really at. Another team that's been tested and did not come up to it. They played Sac State. They lost 1 there. They won the final 2 there. They got Pepperdine and Oregon this week. UCSB has not lived up to their expectations. We had them at 17 in our poll early. They quickly dropped off after blowing out Campbell in the first game and then losing the next 2. The arms are just not showing up yet for UCSB. Those starting arms have just not been what we all thought that they would be as All-Americans. Pat, I'm a little concerned about this UCSB team. I'm going to see them on Sunday in Oregon, but I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting start for the Gauchos. I think the talent level is still there. I think they might have just been, I don't know if it's they're just showing their hand or if there's certain things early on in the season that other teams are picking up on and game planning for that the Gauchos and their staff just aren't seeing yet. Because Sac State on Friday, they were all over Matt Agar. They chased him after just 4 1/3, and they tacked on quite a bit of runs. You saw things kind of change on Saturday, and they were really good on Sunday. Gutierrez, he went 6 strong on Saturday, only gave up 1 run. And Gallagher on Sunday, he was 5 innings, 1 hit, no runs, and 7 strikeouts. So I think it's coming around, but Sac State's not the type of competition that you can measure yourself up there against, especially in conference. So this weekend's going to be a really big kind of look to see if they can kind of flip things around entirely and put together a good weekend against a good offensive team.
Yeah, and they're going to play Oregon at Oregon in PK Park now. That will switch from being down at UCSB. Now it's going to be at PK Park. Huge for Oregon. They get them at home. That's big for that ballpark. Those teams have been really good. We'll get more into that later for Oregon, but it's going to be a show me something series. I know we have it set for one of our pick'ems because it's just a really good weekend series. San Diego is 4-3. They've had ups, they've had downs, they've been battling. They're a team to like. This weekend they get California Sun, they get UC Irvine, UCLA, and Michigan, the same as what Irvine is in that tournament down there. It's going to be a battle for them this weekend, and for San Diego to stay here and compete with these WCC teams, the Santa Claras and the Portlands. These are some games they need to go out and get a couple. I think if they get 2 of those somehow, they're going to feel good about themselves.
I agree, and I think it's going to come down to the pitching staff. The offense is doing just fine as they went out and they went toe-to-toe with Arizona in 3 fantastic games this past weekend, dropping that Sunday one in a close one. Arizona kind of had some late game runs that they tacked on. Jack Durovich, he's hitting 500. He's putting the ball all over the yard. He's not getting it quite out of the yard yet. I expect that to come. Him and Jack Costello, the 2 Jacks on that offense. Costello has 11 RBIs, and Austin Smith had a huge weekend. He was a pivotal part in their game on Saturday. Those guys and more are going to have to step up as the competition level makes a little bit of a jump here. We already talked about Irvine and how high on them that I am, and UCLA as well is a good ball club that is going to be hungry for some wins coming up this past weekend.
Yeah, San Diego's got their work cut out for them. They got to go down there and go play some good teams. Like I said, if they beat CSUN and they go beat Michigan, I think they feel okay. If they compete with Irvine and UCLA, even better. But going out there and split with those guys would be just fine. Portland, we love UP, the Portland Pilots. They went down and took the first one from USC. And I know that you and I were like, this is it. Shutout, great start. They lose in the bottom of the 9th on the Saturday game. They had it. They bounced all the way back down 5-0. They came all the way back to 5-5, and then they lost in the bottom of the 9th. And then they really didn't show up in some big moments on Sunday. They had bases loaded a couple times and didn't get any runs across the board. Really hurt them. Still love this Portland Pilot team, but not good to let USC get away when they had them for the weekend series.
Yeah, they had them dead to rights, I want to say, just because that USC team have to be low on themselves after getting a shutout. But you're shut out on a Friday night, and now you're still winless to start the season. And you're looking at Sam Sturr, who was just lights out the weekend prior. They kind of attacked him a little bit, 5 runs in just under 5 innings, and they kind of rode that lead there. It got thin towards the end, but they clutched it up with a 2-out double off the fence in the bottom of the 9th. To take that one. And Sunday is going to be something for the Pilots that they're going to have to start playing with some arms and seeing if they can provide a little bit better pitching on that last day of the weekend. Just that's both. They've lost now both their Sunday starts, and neither of those Sunday starts have really been close for the Pilots this season. So they can keep up the pitching, especially on Friday night. Nick Brink, I'll talk about him later, and Sam Sturr on Saturdays. They just kind of bridge it to Sunday and put it all together.
The 1-2 punch has been great, and Sam Sturr wasn't bad. That zone was a little squeezed. I know we were watching the game; it felt a little squeezed there, and so he had to throw a lot of strikes. And that USC team took advantage of those. And credit Sam Sturr, he had a few walks, he had a few hit batsmen, but he really got after it and kind of just kept competing. But Sunday they gotta figure out something. They gotta get something going because they gotta find an arm there. Washington State 5-2. I don't think anybody had them at a winning record at this point in the season. I think that everybody thought that they were writing this Washington State team off. Coach Choate saying, not so fast. We're out here to win. They won the tournament this weekend, and now they get TCU and Rhode Island for 4 games. They could still be sitting at a winning record after this weekend.
How about the Cougs? Travel down there. We were talking about it last week. Great start, but they've got a lot more, talent in these opponents they had coming up, and they went out and they took care of Kentucky. They take care of it on day 2 and then stumble there on day 3. Texas State, that's just a good program. at the end of a long weekend on the road. But yeah, I was very, very impressed with the Cougs and how they handled themselves this weekend. And it's nothing too special. It's a very Washington State approach. It's just everybody's doing a little bit of everything and working together as a cohesive unit, and it's really moving along. Like even if you look at the pitching staff, none of the numbers really jump off the page. Their ERAs for the three starters is 3, 4.9, and 5.23. Nothing that's totally all-star level, I guess, or all conference level, but they're doing what they have to, and the offense is doing what they can as well. They've got, I think, all 9 of their starters all have an on-base percentage above 300, which I thought was really impressive for these Cougs. Patient approach at the plate, and it's working out for them.
They're getting deep into bullpens, right? So they're going up there and they're not just jumping after first pitch fastballs. They're really getting deep into opponents' bullpens. And you saw it on Friday when they beat Kentucky. They kind of just kept grinding. Grant Taylor threw great. They only gave up 2 hits to this Kentucky team, and they just kind of kept battling. They got enough to win that game. I'm impressed with what the Cougs have done this year. I feel like they, for a team that's pieced together with JUCO and transfer players, they've really come together early in the season. It's good to see. Good to see for Washington State. Another team that's really come together, and it's more the senior leaderships that they have on the team, senior and junior guys. Utah's been on fire. 7-1 Utah. They get Cal Poly at Cal Poly this weekend. There's a chance that they could be another team that's competing early and trying to put pressure on these Pac-12 teams.
Yeah. Brian Windhorst said it best in the offseason this past year. What is going on in Utah? Because that is exactly what it is like right now with the Utes. 7-1. They swept the Tony Gwynn Legacy Tournament over some really talented teams. Loyola Marymount's been putting it together. UCSD, I'm very high on the Tritons. And then another win over San Diego State. And then they took care against Bakersfield as well. But their bullpen was the one that jumped off the page to me this past weekend. 19 and a third over the weekend and only gave up 5 earned runs. Yeah. That's something that they're going to need to rely on a lot in the Pac-12 because these offenses in the Pac-12 will chase their starters. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. The bullpen can continue to pitch like that with an ERA of 2.32 combined over 4 games. It's a really, really impressive thing for the Utes.
And they're doing it by throwing strikes and attacking hitters. They're not afraid of anybody right now. They're going out there and saying, we're going to beat up the zone. You're going to have to hit to beat us. And there will be some teams that can catch up to them. But right now, what they're doing, it's working. Throw strikes, play defense behind your guys, and get outs and runs when you can on your side. It's
and
really
they're stealing bags.
Yeah,
at a pretty good rate. You said that they're generating runs. They're playing just nitty gritty baseball. They're 10th in the nation right now with 19 stolen bases, and they've got a pretty comfortable lead on other teams in the Pac-12.
Yeah, you got to be really excited if you're a Utah fan right now. They're playing the kind of baseball that they need to play. They don't have 15 guys. They don't have even 5 guys that are going to hit the ball at the ballpark, especially at that home ballpark being a gigantic ballpark. Play small ball, pitch, get outs, play defense, don't make mistakes, make other teams make mistakes, and that's what they've done. They've done it early this season. They're going to continue doing it. They got Cal Poly this weekend. I expect them to maybe take 2 or 3, hopefully, maybe 3. Who knows? This Utah team's on fire, though. Another team that I love very much, and I've been very high on them, and they're on fire, is Cal. Cal's taking care of business. UConn is a very good Group of 5 team. People have them right on that edge of being ranked. This UConn team's not a pushover. Cal made it look easy for a couple games. They really are good. And, Rodney Green Jr. and Scholes, these guys are really taking care of business. Loma Vida hasn't even really gotten going yet.
No, those two that you hit on, plus Loma Vida, one of my favorite parts of this offense is their 9-hole hitter. And I went digging through today to just see where they have PJ Musortis at. I blinked 100 times to make sure I was seeing it right when I saw that he's still hitting in the 9-hole. He's batting .632. He's played in all 6 games, or all 7 games, excuse me. It's something wild, especially looking at their leadoff hitter. His on-base percentage is in the 3s, and he's got 12 strikeouts. Musortis is on base 70% of the time plus. So this is another kind of balanced lineup where guys are just setting the table, and you're letting those big guys, Rodney Green Jr. especially, bring in the runs and generate some offense for this team.
Yeah, it's creating offense, it's creating runs. I love it. Stay with it. And again, this is a team that's done pitching and defense. They're going out there and doing the right things, and they're hitting the ball out of the ballpark when they need to. Really high on Rodney Green Jr., but I'll talk about him a little bit later. Washington finally gets some wins. They finally go out and they go get a couple wins this weekend. They're off the schneid. They get Santa Clara this weekend. It's going to be a good series for both those ball clubs. A little bit of a show me there. Maybe Washington can come back alive there. They get them at home. I'm interested to see what this Washington team does because they feel like they got a little pushback with Kelly there. They got to go out there and just keep battling because they have dudes. They have dudes, especially hitting wise. They got to go out and hit a little bit better than they have this year.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that this team's average is still below the Mendoza line. They're
Yeah.
still not, as a team, really generating that much offense, but they're doing enough to get wins, which is, I think, the biggest first step that the Huskies have to take to right the ship on their season after starting out winless in that first weekend. Uh, and even the one game they lost this weekend to Pitt, that was in the bottom of the ninth walk-off home run in a tight 2-2 ball game there. Cam Clayton is one of those guys on offense that he's starting to find his power a little bit. He had 2 bombs over the weekend, sitting at a team high 7 RBIs right now. Carson Nolan, AJ Guerrero, other guys that they're starting to get things going, but they're going to have to bring everybody else up with them, especially as Santa Clara, when they see that team this weekend, this is a team they can hit. And if they need a little inspiration to get in the bats hot, Santa Clara will definitely give it to them because Washington's going to have to score runs if they're going to want to get some wins this weekend.
Yeah, it feels like every game for Washington, it's like, oh, Jeter Wybera did good this week, and then Cam Clayton, and then they're taking turns. No, they need to do it together. Do it all together. Put it all together for the same games here, guys. If you guys want to win some games, their hitting has not been where they need it to be. They're going to have to pick that up. I think that they will. Eventually, they're going to get that hitting right, but right now, it's not. Arizona is a team that some people wanted to try to start pushing and saying they're good. They're good. They're way better than we thought. They kind of took back a step there and lost 2 or 3 to San Diego this weekend. This Arizona club, there's nothing wrong with them, but there are too many question marks to really be a force for me in the Pac-12. And they get TCU, DBU, Alabama, and Indiana. That feels like a sweep to me. Those are 4 really good ball clubs that are ranked in a lot of polls.
This might be the toughest slate that a Pac-12 team has this weekend. Arizona State has a tough slate as well. But yeah, especially if you consider and throw in all of those unknowns around this Arizona program at the moment,
yeah,
it's a tough sledding weekend for them. Garrett Caulfield, he's starting to put things together. He contributed 3 RBIs on Sunday. He's hitting 500. But they rely too much on their power bats, and their power bats just aren't consistent enough at the moment. Corona and White, they're combined for 66% of the long balls this year. But it's also 35% of the team's strikeouts. So
that's what I was going to say. There's too much swing and miss. Too much swing and miss.
With the power hitters, it's always going to be a trade-off with a little bit of power and a little bit of swing and miss and some strikeout game. But they got to find a better balance there if they want to be a more consistent ball club.
Yep. And they're going to have to. I mean, this Arizona club, to get into these Pac-12, they're going to have to hit. They don't have the pitching to go out there and beat people up. And this weekend's really going to be a test on that bullpen with DBU, Bama, and Indiana. I'd be surprised if Arizona takes 2. They might steal one from one of these 3 teams, but boy, all 4 of those teams are really, really good. So if they went 0-4, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me.
Not at all.
Team we just mentioned, Arizona State, they're 5-3. They get a weekend series, but it is A&M, then TCU, and then A&M again. Those are 2 teams we have in our top 10 of our poll, and they have to face them back to back to back. This is a tough sledding for Arizona State. If they can go get one game, I'd be really happy for them. Hitting wise, they can. It might be Friday there against A&M, but that A&M squad has been throwing strikes and been really good on the mound too.
Yeah, this is going to be crazy, but and I'm not going to make the prediction. I'm going to make it a hot take. I know there's a lot of confusion about that in the College Baseball Central fan base at the moment between predictions and hot takes. I think Arizona State, just because this team is so impressive on offense, they can go get all 3 of these. It's a huge uphill battle, but these guys have to be, you mentioned A&M going out and throwing strikes. They have to be careful with where they put those strikes. 5 qualified hitters on the Arizona State offense are all hitting above 400, and that doesn't include Ryan Campos. He's down at 250. He's yet to make things click so far this season.
Yeah.
Arizona State has the weapons to go out and do it. The pitching needs to show up, and the offense needs to not back down from where they've been at so far this season.
Yeah, if Thomas Burns going to go out there and shove against A&M on Friday, watch out because they could take all 3. But I think more realistically, 1, maybe 2. If they go beat 2 of these teams, then we're going to start looking at them to be a top 25 team because that's really where they would be at with this ball club if they can compete with those guys. On the flip side of that, USC gets 2 their first 2 wins this season against Portland. They're 2-5. They get Michigan for the midweek, and then they go the opposite. They go TCU, A&M, TCU. That's tough sledding for this USC team. Like the Michigan game, that's pretty even there. TCU, A&M, TCU. That seems like a mismatch this weekend for USC.
Yeah, I will not be going out and making the same prediction that I made here for Arizona State. I don't see USC taking 3 of these. I don't know if I can see them taking even 2, maybe any of them, barring the Michigan game in the midweek. USC started to kind of put things together with their bats as their weekend progressed at their first quote-unquote home series there in Irvine. But I don't know. There was just a lot of things, whether how you noted on earlier, a tight zone and some free bases going on with Portland, and then just kind of jumping all over it and putting an early lead on Sunday, which I think will help if they can get out to an early lead and allow their pitchers to kind of work a little bit more carefree. It definitely helped for Stromsburg on Saturday as he went out and he threw 6 innings, only gave up 2 runs. But they got to help Caden Aoki. He's over 2 now on the season. He's my preseason pick for Pac-12 Pitcher of the Year. So he's got the talent. He's got the stuff. But USC's got to go put the bats together and make it work for them. I don't see it happening this weekend, though.
I don't see it happening this weekend, and doesn't feel like a good time to try to get right when you're facing those teams. Aoki against TCU, though, on Friday night could be a fun watch. I mean, he really is a talented pitcher. But TCU is going to throw out Peyton Stoll. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good one. I want to see what happens here, though. But I think that USC is a little bit overmatched. Next one, we got Oregon is 6-1. They took care of business against Lafayette this weekend. Of course, their only losses to Texas Tech so far. And they get UCSB Santa Barbara at home this weekend for a 3-game set. This is big for both teams, right? I think that this is one of those series where you look at it and say, this is kind of a postseason feel, and Oregon's got to take care of business at home if they really want to put the pressure on other teams.
Yeah, this is one that I'm hoping the fans will show up at PK Park for this weekend. I know the weather might not be too ideal, but this is going to be some really, really good baseball being played in Eugene. Oregon's looking like a problem so far this season. The offense is exactly what we thought it was going to be, and maybe a little bit more because they are jumping all over teams. They put up double digits in 3 of their 4 games this weekend. The only one they didn't was the second leg of a doubleheader, so you probably got some tired arms and tired legs out there. Jacob Walsh, he's found his stroke. He had 2 over the fence this weekend. He's back up to hitting 333 after a slow start to his season. Jeffrey Hurd is a name that you and I kind of talked about a little bit before we started getting going here. It seems like he's just placing the ball into the grass and into empty spots out there. He's batting 500 through 28 at bats. And then you mentioned RJ Gordon. Guys on the staff are starting to come back and come around and put together some really nice outings. Kevin Sider is another guy that I have written down here. He's a guy that's been impressive so far to start the year.
Yeah, the experience of that Arms last year where they missed so many guys, right? So a lot of guys had to throw innings as freshmen. They're coming alive. This is a good team, and this pitching staff can go out there and collect outs like they have, and this hitting has been good. Hurd transferring in has been terrific, and Walsh finally finding his footing. This team it scares me. Bennett Thompson also doing a terrific job behind the plate and hitting. It's been really good to see this team do the things that they should be doing all season. If they can keep up with that in Pac-12 play, they're going to be fighting for a host. They're going to be trying to host here on the West Coast, and it'll be really exciting to see maybe a couple teams, Oregon State and Oregon, hosting on the West Coast. UCLA traveled down to TCU. Every time it felt like they were trying to get into the ball game, they just didn't do it. And TCU's a very good team. Kind of kept keeping them off the board, but they had bases loaded 3 separate times and scored 0 runs. UCLA is not the offense is just not clicking like they needed to. They went 0-3 this weekend. They get Nevada, Long Beach State, Michigan, San Diego, and UC Irvine for this whole week. They get 5 games this week. That's a lot of baseball to play, and they got to be a lot better.
They're reminding me a little bit of the Seattle Mariners out there, loading the bases and getting no runs. And it's too early in the season for me to be looking at that. All right. That comes here in about a month. But, yeah, a tricky weekend for UCLA. It was a tall task from the get going into Fort Worth and playing a really good team, a team that we have number 2 in the country right now. But you hit it on the head. The offense just didn't do enough. 3 runs every game. That's not going to win you many ball games against anybody, regardless of the opponent. Something that's really interesting to me is I was kind of going through their stats so far. John Savage is definitely still tinkering with this lineup. I don't think he really knows what he wants his starting 9 to look like. They've only had 3 guys start all 6 games. I guess with 5 games this week, that gives you an opportunity to get things styled in. But you're going to have to do it quick. John Savage is a good enough coach, and I think he can. But even those guys that they had playing, they only had 5 extra base hits all weekend. no matter how many free bags and squeakers and errors and things that you can force and get guys on base, you got to bring them in. Like you said, leaving the bags packed 3 times, and there's plenty more guys that they left on base over the weekend. A lot of teams here that they can right the ship on, but there's some tough teams sprinkled in there as well.
Yeah, they need to go take care of business, and going out and winning some games this weekend would really do a lot of things for UCLA. They could go 5-0, they could go 0-5. It's just as easy this week looking at that slate of games. But they're still moving things around. They're trying to figure it out. They got a lot of talented freshmen. They got a lot of talented sophomores. They're really trying to figure out what to do with this lineup, and so far it hasn't worked. But I believe in Savage. He's a great coach. I do think that this team turns it around. It's interesting to see right now that they have not done that. Pitching wise, they've been fine. I really do think that they're fine pitching wise. They're going out there and getting outs. They're not going to have the dominant performances that they've had in the past. They don't have any of those guys to go out there and give you 7 innings of shutout ball, but they do have good enough to go win if that offense can figure it out. And I hope to see them turn that offense around a little bit. A team that really needs to turn around and is just a complete shock to almost everybody in the country right now. Stanford. Stanford is not playing. They played Penn State, who is a middle of the conference to bottom of the conference Big Ten team. And they go 1-2 and they get blown out in the games they lost. They weren't even in those ball games. And when they're throwing the Friday night goon stop, they can't even come close to games. Pat, I don't even. They're not even in the ball games.
This team, I'm this close to just putting a rebuild stamp on it and flushing all their results from my mind and just taking it as it is and kind of packing in the year for them. They got to figure out Friday nights. You should never have to be figuring out Friday nights, especially this earlier in the season against opponents that they've played. Fullerton, they just dropped a series to Fresno State. And Penn State, like you said, the Big Ten, got some constituents with us that would claim them as a mid-major. They're not the powerhouse they are in football. 17 free bags on Friday. That's way too many. That you shouldn't have 17 in a weekend. Put 17 guys on for free just on Friday night. The pitching's not there, and it's not deep enough. Even if a guy struggles, it's not like they can just go to the pen and pop things together.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought was interesting, because they did get run ruled on Saturday, even though they lost by 11 on Friday. It said it was a coach's agreed run rule on Saturday, which makes me think Esker might have brought this up on Saturday at the home plate meeting, whether it wasn't in place Friday, just because of the lack of arms that they have there. Yeah. They were able to go and put things together on Sunday. That's 2 weeks in a row now. It looks like by the time we started this, it looks like they're going to take care of San Jose State tonight.
Yeah.
But they're the bottom 2 in most Pac-12 pitching categories. This is not the Stanford team that we're used to. And honestly, the offense isn't doing much better either.
I'm shocked by the lack of offense. I saw Brandon Larson get in. He hit his first home run. Really was a surprise to me that he was not starting from day one for this Stanford team. I thought that he was going to give them the spark on the offense they needed. He did. He did great. And now you got to wonder what's going on with the rest of the Stanford team, because they are just not taking care of business. They get San Jose State today. It looks like they're going to take care of business there. Then they go to Rice, and Rice is not the Rice of old. This is a team that they should go down there and beat. If they don't take 2 or 3 from Rice, you really got to start to question what's going on with this ball club here. But if they can take 2 or 3 from Rice, win tonight, it's just I don't understand. I really don't. They lost a lot, and I said that the whole time. I said, "Hey, question marks." I said, "This team's not what they were a year ago." People fought me on it, and now they're starting to understand this team is just not what they were a year ago. They don't have the arms that are that experienced. They don't have a guy to lean on and say, "Hey, go out there and go get us 7 innings of shutout ball." And they really need that, because right now they can't do it.
This Stanford Rice series would have been primetime television 20 years ago if college baseball was getting the coverage it had then. But yeah, not the 2 teams that we know of old, and especially not Stanford this year, coming off back-to-back Omaha appearances.
Yeah, this isn't 2001. We're not watching, we're not going out there and seeing Mark Pryor versus the Graham team, the Wayne Graham team of Rice. This is
old bees or bats. Yeah.
But Stanford, again, they got to take care of business. They're 2-5 to start this season. All right, let's get to the big dogs. They're top 5 in a lot of polls. They're at least top 10 in every single poll. Oregon State now. Friday was an instant classic. Great win for Arkansas. Congrats to Arkansas. Their fans were great. The 2 fans filled up that stadium. outstanding to see Aiden May goes down and Brady Casper both go down. I know that I'm hearing that Aiden May is okay. There's a little tightness in the arm. I don't know if he's going to throw on Friday against North Dakota State. Sounds like he will. Brady Casper sounds like maybe hammy, maybe knee. We're not sure on either one of those yet because Oregon State's really quiet on it. But over the rest of the weekend, you got to be excited. Beating Texas Tech, beating Oklahoma State, and taking care of business against Michigan 11-1. I mean, run ruling. This offense is there. And like I said earlier, Bazana has more home runs than 16 D1 schools right now. So if you're an Oregon State fan, you have to be really excited, even with the loss against Arkansas.
Yeah, that Arkansas game Friday night was, I not even a bold prediction here, but lots of people are saying it. That won't be the last time that we see these two play. I think even if they do get put on separate sides of the bracket come to Omaha, that was kind of college baseball at its finest. Definitely the marquee matchup. I know that there was a terrific ball game the next night between Arkansas and Oklahoma State. The old suicide squeeze to win it there for Oklahoma State. But Friday, I hope Oregon State fans have felt the same way. Watching that game, even though Hagen Smith, the Beavers had no answers for, you had to know that the second they went to the bullpen, that offense was going to spark right back to life.
Yep.
I put it out when they pulled. I was shocked first off to see that they pulled Hagen Smith where he was at, and I tweeted out. I said, "This game's not over. It's 4-0. And there's still 3 innings." To have the go-ahead run on third base there, the tying run on third base there in the ninth, especially, just a terrific all-around ball game Friday night. Fun, even though Beavers couldn't get on board early on. They were stifling the Razorbacks on defense. It was an entertaining game to watch. And then, the next 2 days, they just go out and absolutely take care of business and revert right back to where they've been and where everybody thinks they should be, just pummeling the baseball. Hard hits all over the yard. I think I saw that only 2 other home runs besides Oregon State were hit that weekend.
Yeah.
In Arlington, and I think Oregon State had 4 or 5. Bazana had 2, Guerra had 1, Smith had 1, I think Turley had 1, or Guerra. So this team was all over it. The offense is everything we expected it to be. Don't let one pitching performance kind of fool you there, because any other night that can happen. Conversely, with guys like Aiden May, Jacob Matz.
Hagen Smith is the number 1 pitcher in college baseball. I said it since December. It's not even close. He is the number 1 pitcher in college baseball. I love Santucci from Duke. He's not Hagen Smith. Hagen Smith can go out there and dominate a game, and he did. 17 strikeouts in 6 innings. In the non-Hagen Smith innings, the Beavers scored 33 runs. They out-hit their opponents in every single game. This is a team that is to be feared with. And the pitching staff has a sub-3 ERA. There's nothing to worry about if you're a Beaver fan. There's only positive things coming. They get a 4-game set against North Dakota State. I know I will be at the Friday night game. Hope to see you fans there. I'm excited for this one. North Dakota State doesn't necessarily match up with the numbers, but you got to go take care of a home opener, and you get 4. Probably a good time to go get some guys some opportunities, right, Pat?
I think we're going to see a lot of guys this weekend. No kind of disrespect to North Dakota State. This Oregon State team, I think, will do this to most opponents that they have in Goss this year. Thursday, Friday, they're going to jump all over the yard. They're going to put on a show. I hope to see Goss filled out there. I love watching the webcam in center field because it's still 100% under construction. The batter's eye is going to be absolutely massive just because it's blocking out part of the construction they have back there. So hopefully that is a benefit for these Beaver hitters with the big batters out there. They'll see these balls in well. I think it's going to be a weekend of celebration at Goss. Lots of victories, a lot of big wins, and a lot of young guys and guys just getting experience as really conference play is kind of around the corner now.
Yeah, it's a great time for guys to get out there and get opportunities, and I think that Mitch and the staff really are looking to give some guys opportunities, and they've done a good job so far. Guys like Dallas Macias have really stepped up. He's actually leading the team in hitting currently on an average basis. This team really can hit. Jacob Craig, another guy who's gotten some opportunities. Trent Caraway has a 7-game hitting streak, so he's leading the Beavers right now. He has gotten a hit in every, or 8-game hitting streak. He has a hit in every single college baseball game that he's played so far. Just tremendous. So this team, nothing but positives. There's so much to see from this team coming forward. I hope to see you fans there on Friday night. I will be up at the top of Section 3. Come up and say hi. I know that you guys, if you're there, you're going to come say hi and support the Beavs with me. But I can't wait to watch these games. And again, Sunday I'll be at U of O. Saturday I'll be at Linfield. So I don't know how many of you are going to join me at Linfield, but I'll be there on Saturday. I'm pretty excited about that one there.
Get on out to Roy Helser. That's good baseball down there at the Cats.
great baseball in the cast. That's why I'm going. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I am very excited about this trip on Saturday over there to Linfield in McMinnville. All right, Pat, who's your winning team of the week? I want to know who you think did the best. I think I know mine, but I want to hear who you thought.
Yeah, I'm going with the Utes. I love what Utah was able to do this past weekend. I was close with going with Washington State just because same thing. I'm kind of a Pac-2 homer, and I love what they've got going there. But unlike the Cougs, Utah did not drop a single game this weekend. Utah starting to put the pieces together on what could be kind of an interesting run as we get into Pac-12. Usually, they're not much of a team to watch once we get into conference play. I think with the early returns that we're seeing so far from Utah, it'd be kind of interesting. It seems like they're playing a fun brand of baseball and something that will kind of be contrary or to the contrary of what we see from a lot of Pac-12 teams this year.
It feels kind of like them and USC have gone different directions, right? Like Utah's going the right direction, and USC's going the wrong direction, but it feels like it should be the other way. And Utah's just really going out there, taking care of who's in front of them. And again, they have Cal Poly this weekend. If they go take care of all three down there, they're 10-1 going into the next weekend, getting ready for this Pac-12 season to start. Nothing but positivity there for Utah. Really, really proud of how this team has handled themselves. I'm going with another team, and I don't think I've been too quiet about it on Twitter. I've been letting them have it. Cal is on fire, and if you're still snoozing on this Cal team, you're wrong. They can hit, they can pitch, they play defense. There's a three-headed monster in Lomavita, Scholes, and Rodney Green Jr. that are really maybe three of the best hitters on any team in any conference, and the three of them together are really lighting it up. I love to see where this Cal team is going. I cannot wait to see what they do this weekend. They get Sac State, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Pitt. Some tests for them, and if they can go take care of business again, I'm going to put them in my top 25 again. This team is really good. I'm excited for this Cal team. I cannot wait. I can't wait, Pat. I just there's so much excitement around this Cal baseball team, and they play a fun brand of baseball just like Utah. So good call on the Utah. I'm taking Cal. Underperforming team this week. We have a few options.
Yeah. In this one, I kind of jumped back and forth with. I'm going to leave you one just because, like I gave credit last week, I think you've been high on them being a little bit lower this year. I juggled between two teams here, between Arizona State and UCLA. UCLA just because they were winless. Arizona State split the weekend. And I think just going by the expectations that I had for both of these teams entering the weekend, I'm leaning to Arizona State. I know UCLA had their work cut out for them going in, so I can't say that. While 0-3 is definitely disappointing, I can't say I'm the most surprised. Arizona State not outright winning this series is definitely a surprise to me. They've just found themselves in slugfests all year, which is fine because their offense is good enough to perform in those. But in the games where it's not, which we saw two of those this weekend, they can lose to not good teams. Frankly, they gave up 36 runs in their 4 games this weekend, and one of those games only went 8 innings. So 36 is just the low end of what they could have gave up. Same thing the week prior with Santa Clara. Problem is Ohio State is not the offensive team that Santa Clara is. I think Arizona State can turn things around and probably will. I hope this is the last time I have Arizona State kind of in this spot for me on the podcast. But putting things all together and looking at it over the weekend, I had to kind of lean Arizona State as my disappointing team of the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been great for them to go take all 4 against Ohio State, who again is not a high-performing Big Ten team. Now they did perform at this end stretch of last year. They were on fire. They were one of the hottest teams in the country. They almost made it in with RPI. This is not a great ball team though, and to go out there and split with Arizona State and Arizona State being at home, it's got to hurt a little bit. It got to hurt their mojo a little bit. But this team can hit. I think that they'll be fine. They really got to find some outs in the bullpen. Burns was fine. Markle was fine. They got to go find some other arms other than those two, though. Between those two shining, they got to find something else out there. My disappointing team of the week is Stanford. Again, another Big Ten opponent in Penn State, a team that they should go out there and beat handily, and they get 10 run twice. It's just not excusable at this point. I love David Esker. I know that he's trying to do things. I know he's putting a lot of this on himself. Those players have got to step up. They've got to get better starting performances. If they really want to make anything this year, any noise, it's got to turn now. And this is the time. It's got to turn around right now. This is when they got to do it. They get a chance this week against Rice on the weekend to really go down there and beat up on a team that is not what they were 20 years ago. I just need to see more from Stanford, and they might be one of my underperforming teams of the year. So right now, they're definitely up there for the teams that are underperforming for where they should be.
It's been shocking to kind of see the start that they've gotten out to, because I was high on the Stanford team. I would say high, but I was giving Stanford what I thought to be kind of what they had deserved. I had them in my preseason top 25. I kind of knew the question marks that was definitely on this roster that they had coming into the season, but I thought things would be different for sure. So hand up, not ashamed to say that I was flat out wrong at the start of the season for the Stanford Cardinal team.
I had them at 7 in my Pac-12 rankings. Then I looked around, everybody else had them ranked. I'm like, did I mess up? Am I in the I started thinking, like, oh man, I'm gonna take a lot of crap if I'm so far wrong on this team. Now I still could be. This team could turn it around. They have talent. They could figure it out. Esker, again, one of my favorite coaches in the country. So it wouldn't surprise me if this team turns around. But I do feel a little validated that this team has struggled so much. And the question marks are out there, and they're still question marks. They're not answering any of those things right now. They got to go out
Right.
there and they got to find some hits. They got to go find some timely pitching. Maybe this is the get right weekend where they can put it all together and they start some new guys and give them opportunities, but not seeing it from Stanford. Who are you giving props to this weekend, player or coach? I know there's a lot of options out there, but I want to hear where you're at.
Yeah, this week I'm sticking in the West Coast Conference. Last week I was on John Bering. He had another tremendous week. I'm not going to go with John Bering this week, though. I am going to go with the pitcher of the week, and that's Nick Brink at the University of Portland. He definitely could have argued it could have had my recognition last weekend, but he continues to go out and put together dominant Friday night performances. This past week against USC, he went 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, no runs, and only 4 hits against that USC team that we knew that they were struggling coming in offensively. It kind of showed you what they're capable of later in the week, especially on Sunday. It's something that I think both of us were expecting this USC team to be a little bit more prolific on the offensive side of things. But that puts him on his 2 starts of the season now. He's gone 6 innings both times, 9 Ks week 1, 10 Ks week 2, 7 hits combined, and he has yet to give up an earned run for the Pilots on Friday nights through the first 6 innings of baseball. That sets any team up to go out and start the weekend 1-0, which is a huge, huge advantage, especially if you can tack on runs and get into teams' bullpens. So I got to tip the cap to Nick Brink on his Friday night start and starts of the season, because he's off to a hot start.
Yeah, and especially in the WCC, right? If he can go out there and be a dude on Fridays for them and save that bullpen for the rest of the weekend, it sets up UP to be a really good team this year. And I think both of us have them either winning or right there near the top of the WCC this year. And we're excited. We're going to go catch some games this year at Etzel Field, Joe Etzel Field there. Pretty pumped. Lots of games there. All right. I have 2 because Randy Choate, I want to give you props because you have got this Washington State team doing things nobody expected. I didn't expect them. I was hard on this team. I said, okay, this is a full rebuild team. This is a full rebuild. It's cool. It's fine if this team doesn't win 10 games this year. They might win 10 games before Pac-12 starts. This is crazy to me. So, Randy Choate, all the love in the world. Congratulations. You've done great things there. My player is going to be Jacob Kmatz. He went out there on Saturday and took care of business against the Michigan team and shut them down. He had a career record hit for him for strikeouts, 10 strikeouts. Went out there and just really showed that he can be the Saturday night starter the Beavers need to be super successful this year. Eric Segura was great on Sunday, but I'm going with Jacob Kmatz with what he did for Oregon State after the heartbreaking loss to Arkansas the night before. He goes out there and says, I got you. Don't worry, I got you guys. And the offense took care of it, but he was like, I'm going to go out there and make sure that this doesn't really feel like a game. So congrats to Jacob Kmatz and Oregon State. He is my player of the week.
Yeah, not that hopefully that there wasn't too many question marks about that Oregon State team coming out of Friday night, but Kmatz went out and he shut them all down right off the gate. And I think that was a huge spot start for him to go in there on a Saturday night and really slam the door, do exactly what the Beavers needed. If they can just get shades of that on Saturdays throughout the season, the Beavers are going to be in a really good position.
Absolutely. Well, final thoughts, Pat. What are you excited for this weekend? Series you're keeping your eye on?
Series I'm keeping my eye on for this coming weekend. It's tough to look over the UCSB and the Oregon matchup just because it's kind of a real interesting. UCSB is yet to put everything together. Oregon's firing on all cylinders on offense. But those that I'm not sure the brand name of the spot, the weekend tournament down there that's going to be in Arlington with the UCLA, USC, and the A&M and the TCU weekend series. Just makes me appreciative that I folded and spent a little bit of money on Flow Sports, because that's going to be a good brand of baseball all weekend long down there again. But I also wanted to take this time to address some folks this morning that I woke up to who were a little curious as to why I still have Oregon State possibly ranked above Arkansas, which I do. I've got Oregon State at 3, Arkansas at 4. And what it boils down to is I was watching both teams on Saturday and Sunday, respectively, in their games. I was trying to tell myself who's going to win in a weekend series of these two teams. And to me, I think I have to go with Oregon State. Hagen Smith was undoubtedly dominant and showed why he is the number 1 pitcher in college baseball on Friday night. But I think if you break this down and they play in a 3-game series, whether it be a weekend series, which I hope with the independent schedule that Oregon State and Arkansas are in communications about setting up a home and home, because I think that could be something that I think a lot of fans on both sides would love to see, and people around the country. But I got to give it to the Beavers in a 3-game set. I think the offense is just too much for a staff. I know Arkansas might have the best pitching staff in the country. Oregon State might have one of the better offenses in the country and deeper offenses in the country as well. So I think head-to-head over the weekend, Oregon State gets the nod. Didn't want to type all that out for all you folks on me this morning on Twitter, so figured I'd reserve the podcast to get some SEC ears on here as well.
Yeah, you'll be able to cut that out and put that in later and send it out to the Twitterverse. Yeah, I agree. I do think that Oregon State would take a 2 out of 3 from Arkansas right now. But I will say Arkansas staff and Duke staff are the top 2 staffs in the country. Wake Forest, LSU, and Oregon State are right behind those staffs. But Duke and Arkansas are probably the top 2 in the country for me, for my money. My final thoughts of the weekend, I'm excited to go watch baseball live, man. I've been having to watch it from home. I'm excited to get out. I know it's snowy right now here in Bend, but I'm going to make it over the pass. However it takes me to get over the pass, go to the game on Friday in Corvallis, Saturday at Linfield, and then Sunday at Oregon. So I hope to see all you fans out there. Thanks for joining us here on the Best Coast Pod, brought to you by CBC. Cannot wait for more college baseball. For Pat Moen and myself, thanks for joining us again. We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good one.